We're dividing those two. So at the bottom, I'm going to write, and again, you want to write this at the bottom because you want space. 2x cubed divided by 2x. Well, what's 2x cubed divided by 2x give us? So let's take this one at a time. What's 2 divided by 2? 1. So the 2's essentially go away. What's x cubed divided by x? How many x's would I take away? 1. So how many are left over? 2. So that's written as x what? Squared. So I'm going to write the x squared right above where it says x squared. Now, the next part that we do, so just like when we were doing numerical long division, to figure out what we subtract by, we multiply our x squared by our original polynomial, or 2x minus 3. So we're going to multiply it by 2x minus 3. And remember, you just distribute that. So what's x squared times 2x? 2x cubed. Good. What's x squared minus 3 times negative 3? Sorry. So x squared times negative 3. Negative 3x squared. So, so we divided, we wrote it up here. Then we got to multiply our quotient by our original polynomial that we're dividing by. That's when we get 2x cubed minus 3x squared. Now, if we're subtracting this entire polynomial to the top, what are we actually subtracting? So if we're subtracting this polynomial, so in other words, we're multiplying this polynomial by a negative, what are we actually putting up top? So if I subtract by a negative, guys, to this entire polynomial, that means I have to do what? Distribute that negative. Or in other words, if I just distribute a negative 1, I'm essentially just doing what? Flipping the signs. So this would actually be negative 2x cubed plus 3x squared. And this is what I'm going to write up top. All right. So right underneath the 2x cubed minus 5x squared, I'm going to write negative 2x cubed plus 3x squared. And then I'm going to add by combining like terms. So what should happen is that the first terms you divide by should cancel out, does it? Yes, 2x cubed minus 2x cubed is 0, so that goes away. What's negative 5x squared plus 3x squared? Negative 2x squared. Then my last step is to bring down my other two terms. So this would be negative 2x squared plus 5x plus 4. And then we repeat the process. So we're now going to divide negative 2x squared by 2x again. So right here, I'm going to write negative 2x squared divided by 2x, which is what? So what's negative 2 divided by 2? Negative 1. So we just have a negative somewhere. What's x squared divided by x? X. If you took away an x, you'd be left with 1x. So I would take this negative x, write it up above the 5x, because that's my quotient. Then to figure out what I'm going to be dividing by next, I got to multiply my quotient by my original polynomial, which is 2x minus 3. So we're going to multiply by 2x minus 3. So again, distribute. And that would give me what? So it's negative x times 2x. Negative 2x squared. What's negative x times negative 3? Positive 3x. Now remember, we're subtracting up at the top. So that means I got to multiply my answer by a negative number. So if I multiply that negative, what am I putting up top to subtract? 2x squared minus 3x. All right, do not forget to multiply that negative because we're technically subtracting, which means we got to change the signs to both terms. So this is what I write up top. So this would be positive 2x squared minus 3x. And again, your first term of the polynomial that you're dividing into should cancel out when you subtract. If it doesn't, you did something wrong. All right? Does negative 2x squared plus 2x squared cancel out? Yes, that goes away. What's 5x minus 3x? 2x. And then I bring down the plus 4. Then we're going to do it one more time. All right? I told you guys this is the process. All right? So we're now going to do 2x divided by 2x. So at the bottom, I'm going to do 2x divided by 2x. What's 2x divided by 2x? Just 1. So up at the top, I'm going to write plus 1. Now, I then got to multiply that 1 by 2x minus 3, which that's really easy because what's 1 times anything? Itself. So this is still 2x minus 3. 1 times 2x is 2x. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Then if you multiply it by a negative, because we are subtracting it, what's the polynomial going to write up top? Negative 2x plus 3, which that's what I'm writing up top. So minus 2x plus 3. All right. 2x minus 2x is what? 0. That goes away. 4 plus 3 is what? 7. Now, 7 is going to be my what? That's your remainder. And just make a note, we always write our remainder as a fraction. So, up here is my actual quotient. So, x squared minus x plus 1 is your answer, but you also need to write in terms of your remainder. So, the way you write it would be x squared minus x plus 1 plus, if I have to write 7 as a fraction, what do you think it's going to be? Seven over, how do I represent that remainder? How do I represent it numerically? So we did 160 divided by 3. We had a remainder of 1. How did I write that numerically? Or as a fraction? What would my denominator be? What I originally divided by, right? Right, 2x minus 3. So this is my answer. So guys, it is a doozy. It's a process, but it's very step heavy, but it's not necessarily difficult stuff. All right. The biggest issue with long division is it's just super duper step heavy. All right. But it's stuff that you should already know how to do. You should already know how to divide monomials. You should already know how to multiply a monomial to a polynomial. You should already know how to combine like terms. All right, it's nothing new. It's just a weird process. All right. So let's try another one. All right. So we're just going to do the exact same process. All right. So walk me through it. What do I do first? Where do I start? Look at your highlights. What did I highlight? The first term. So I'm dividing 3x cubed by 3x. That's why I want you guys to highlight that stuff so you know where to start. So at the bottom, I'm going to write 3x cubed divided by 3x, which is what? So what's 3 divided by 3? 1. What's x cubed divided by x squared? Or x, sorry. So what's 3 cubed divided by 3x? Or what's x cubed divided by x? Or x2 or x squared. All right. So I'm going to write this up here above my x squareds. Now, I got part of my quotient. Now I need to figure out what I need to subtract to my oh God, too many D words, to my dividend. All right. So I'm going to multiply by my polynomial. So that's 3x plus 1. So what do I get when I multiplied x squared to 3x plus 1? So 3x cubed plus what? Plus x squared. Good. And since we're subtracting, I'm actually doing what? What am I writing up top? What's the other part? Good. So I'm going to write this up top underneath my original. So this will be minus 3x cubed minus x squared. And then combine like terms. So again, So again, if your first term does not cancel out, you did something wrong. All right. So 3x cubed minus 3x cubed is what? 0 goes away. What's negative 5x squared minus x squared? Negative 6x squared. What's my last step? Bring down the other two terms. So this would be minus 5x plus 4. Take a minute, try the next step. So go through the process for the negative 6x squared. I don't want you to finish it. I just want you to go through the process for the negative 6x squared. So try the process when you're dividing negative 6x squared by 3x. All right, you guys done? guys another minute. So again, I don't want you to finish the problem. I just want you to do the next round of steps for the next term. As always, we should divide that. Okay, guys, one more minute. Alrighty. Check your answer. So you should have ended up with negative 2x up top. And when you subtracted everything, you should have ended up with negative 3x plus 4. So just to see the bottom part, I did negative 6x squared divided by 3x. That gave me negative 2x. Multiplied it by my polynomial. So that would give me negative 6x squared minus 2x. Made sure I multiplied it by the negative so I get the subtraction form of it. And then combine like terms up top to give me my new starting point. Did you guys get it? All right. Try that last step on your own. So finish it. All right. All right, so take a minute, do that last step. Also, go ahead and write out your final answer, including the remainder, once you get there. So essentially just change.
So, plus 1. And your answer would be. Yes. do negative 3x on top of it.
So proud of you. Okay, so thank you. Plus 2. No, minus 2.
1 versus negative 5.
So you're gonna call me that. Right, so that's use what we have. Yeah. And then the remainder would be.
And multiply them by 3x on R.
No. So your answer would be this, and then be followed over 30x. Math is so fun, guys. Actually, this one is not fun. But I understand it. Let me enjoy life for like the few minutes I can. Let me enjoy my.
All right, guys. So check your answer. So you should have ended up with x squared minus 2x minus 1 up top, a remainder of 5. Now, given what I know, how would I write my final answer, including the remainder? Landon.
X squared minus 2x minus 1 plus 5 over 3x plus 1.
Right. So x squared minus 2x minus 1 plus my remainder of 5, and it's over the 3x plus 1 because it doesn't go evenly into it. So that would be my answer. So again, just to recap, I did negative 3x divided by 3x. I got negative 1. Multiply that negative 1 to the 3x plus 1. I got negative 3x minus 1. Multiplied another negative 1 to it to flip the signs again. So what I wrote up top that I was adding dash subtracting to the top was 3x plus 1, which I did up here. The 3x's canceled themselves out. 4 plus 1's 5. Had nothing to bring down, so I knew I was done. And that's my remainder. All right. Like I said, it's not too bad. It's just stupidly step heavy. All right. Okay. I want to do one more just to make sure that it hits home. All right. So turn over on the back. We're going to do number 2 together. So we'll do synthetic tomorrow. I just want to focus on long. All right. Now, given what they gave us, how would I set it up using my little, why did that work out so perfectly? Using my little bracket thing. So it will go underneath the bracket. So this time they did not put it in the bracket for us. So what goes underneath the bracket? Right. So our first polynomial is what goes under the bracket. That's our dividend, or what we're dividing into. And then outside the bracket is our divisor, or the binomial that we're dividing by. All right. So let's go through this together. So let's go with Jasmine. What's my very first step? Right, divide my first 2 terms together. So I'm going to do that down here. So this is 4x cubed divided by 4x, which will give you what, Jasmine? X squared, because 4 divided by 4, that's 1. X cubed divided by x, if you took 1x away from x cubed, that leaves you with x squared. All right, so if I wrote x squared up here, what's my next step, Tomas? So what's my next step after I get that x squared? Right, multiply it by 4x minus 5. So I would get what, Tomas?
cubed minus 5x squared.
Good. All right. What's my next step? Lord. What's my next step, Haley?
You, multiply over by a negative.
Right. Multiply it by a negative, and I would get what?
You get negative 3, negative 4x cubed, and then plus 5x.
Good. All right. And that's what I then write up here. So negative 4x cubed plus 5x squared. Now, we would then combine like terms. What's going to happen when I combine like terms?
Both can cancel out.
They both cancel out. So, since they both canceled out, we're still going to bring down our other two terms. So this would be 0, but this would be negative 16x plus 20. So this one's actually a little bit less steps. All right. However, what that means is, since our x squared cancel out, is that we're not going to have a what in our quotient? And not an x squared. We have an x squared. We're not going to have an x, because x squared divided by x, which is what we're going to divide by, is x. So this is not going to have an x, because what's x divided by x? 1. All right. So let's try this now. So let's go, Corey. What's my next step from here? So we're repeating the process. Right, so we'll do the negative 16x and divide it by 4x. So at the bottom, I'm going to write negative 16x divided by 4x. Which what does that give us, Corey?
4x.
So it'd be 4, and it would be what? So right here. It's negative 4. So the x's cancel out. Negative 16 divided by 4 is negative 4. All right. So we'll write a negative 4 up here. Why would you? Whatever. Whatever. We're just going to have test day in the middle of it. My computer's dumb. All right. Don't worry about it. All right. So this is negative 4 right here. Now, what's my next step? Landon.
Multiply negative 4x times 4x plus or minus 5.
Good. And you would get what?
Negative 16x plus 20.
Negative 16x plus 20. Then what would we do, Landon?
You multiply negative 16x plus 20 by negative.
Right. So this will give us 16x minus 20, which that's what we're going to write up top. So 16x minus 20, which what happens?
They both cancel out.
They both cancel out, so I'm left with a remainder of what?
0.
0. So what's my answer? X squared minus 4. And there's no remainder. The remainder 0, you don't have to worry about writing it as a fraction. Because if I wrote it as a remainder, 0 over 4x minus 5, what's 0 divided by anything? 0. So you really don't have to write it. If you do, it's not a big deal. But just know you don't really need to write if the remainder is 0. All right. Any questions on that? Okay. So let me ask you guys this, because we still have a lot of time left till class ends. Do you want me to go through synthetic division? Because I can tell you right now is 10 times easier than this. Or do you want to wait till tomorrow? All right. So what you're going to do now is there is a delta math on this. It combines long and synthetic. You should be able to do all the sections that say long division. All right. Oh, one more thing I got to add. Oh, let me find a good example. One moment. Un momento. So don't quite get to work yet. I want to do one last example, but I got to find it. Just go. Yeah, just go.
One of those table things that you kind of part of this table kind of goes. Oh, you don't want to put it on the floor, so.
Okay. So, no. Let's try this one.
Is there a journal that goes over this? That's because I get it. It's just, I want to make sure so I can get it.
Okay, screw it. I can't find it. Essentially, what I'm going for is this is something to note. Is that if you were given a polynomial like this, so 12x cubed minus 3x plus 5, and ask you to divide it by some binomial, we're not going to do that. There's something I'm missing. What is it? Something I'm missing. If you went down in standard form, what's missing? The x squared. So with long division, first off, it has to be in standard form, and every exponent has to be represented. So if you're missing an exponent, you need to write it in. But you would write it in using 0. So this would be 12x cubed plus 0x squared minus 3x plus 5.
I always thought that 0 and 1 were the same thing.
No.
No.
Yeah. So make sure that if you come across a dividend like this, make sure that you represent every exponent going down. So it should go 3, 2, 1, 0. All right. Another thing is that if it's not in standard form, so if they gave you something like this, negative 3x plus 12x cubed plus 2x squared plus 5, you gotta make sure it's in standard form. So move that 3x to where it needs to be before you start dividing. All right, I'm just telling you because your delta math may throw some of those at you. All right, so be careful. Yes. Yeah.
What's the other division you're talking about?
Synthetic, it's way easier.
I'm
See you tomorrow.
You can show me problem right now. Trust. I might want to know. Everyone else doesn't have to pay attention. I don't know.
All right, guys, so make sure you're working on your delta math.